the Irish in America have contributed to vaudeville and moved from the intimacy of the small sessions and the Cayleys over the years to popular culture. You think of Jimmy Cagney. I used to watch Dennis Day, the tenor on the Jack Benny show as a little kid, and of course Riverdance. And you can think of many, many other examples where the deep tradition has gone out into popular culture. And it's important to know about that and support the deep tradition. Kevin Doyle is an Irish dancer who carries on in literally the steps of his mother, who brought this to America from Ireland. But he also had some of his own twists and turns along the way. From Providence, Rhode Island, let's meet Kevin Doyle. All right. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah. So tell me about Mama's teaching and how it went down for you.
Well, Mama's teaching started early at the age of 8 years old for me. And growing up in Providence in the 50s and 60s in the Irish community, there was a very heavily concentration of Irish on the east side of Providence. So it was a lot of Irish hoolies, a lot of kitchen rackets, a lot of Irish gatherings where everybody would have their party pieces, whether it be songs or their favorite tunes, and definitely step dancing. My mom always would jump up and do some step dancing. So it was like we really loved to watch my mom dance, and we wanted to do that as well.
Okay, I understood kitchen rackets. Hoolies?
Hoolies, something like we had at the Irish Embassy last night.
Oh, that one. Yeah. Now I get it. Yeah. That was a nice little gathering where there's that amazing sort of dignity of the dance, and yet everyone's having a really good time and competing a little and joking a little and flirting a little and all the things that go on there.
All about the Irish getting together. It's they really enjoy the music. They love their folk art. They love passing it on down and keeping the tradition alive. And that's what my mom did with us. Every morning she would, every afternoon she would teach us steps. But before we went to school in the morning, she would make sure they were still fresh in our minds. Oh, yeah. She'd be in front of the kitchen sink. And what she used was mouth music called lilting. And that was a form of music that they used often in Ireland and in this country as well. When there wasn't instruments in the house, they would actually use their mouth to lilt the tune, and then you would dance to whatever the tune would be.
Could we just hear a little of the mouth?
Yes, my mom's favorite was McLeod's Reel, which she lilted right for me, right till when she passed 2 years ago at the age of 93. With Alzheimer's and all, there's one thing that never left her was how to lilt. And when my daughter, Shannon, was dancing, she would be with me and she would lilt, and it went like dum diddly diddly di diddly lum diddly diddly di diddly lum diddly diddly di diddly di up diddly lum.
All right. And we want to point out that also near the kitchen sink learning steps was your sister Maureen.
My sister Maureen was my partner for, well, she won't get mad at me, I hope, but over 40-some years. And
how could you get mad at you?
She's still talking to me. She's with me tonight, in fact. And she was 6 years old when she started dancing. So we've been doing it for quite some time. And my mom used to make sure that we learned those steps before we went off to school in the morning. We would go through that, and off we go.
Let's see if you remember what your mom taught you. Can we get Maureen out here and join you in a jig?
I think we can.
All right, let's give him a round of applause. Kevin Donnelly, Maureen Donnelly, Doyle. Oops. by Maureen Doyle, Kevin Doyle. Fantastic. Yeah. Okay. Now, thank you. In the in the world of Irish music, we've been talking about the family activities and learning, and there is a little aspect, so we understand, of competition at times. And this is something you wore in the competitive days.
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know if that'd fit much anymore, but that was actually the first costume they sent over from Ireland, from Castlereagh, where my mom was from. And it's made of the finest wool of Ireland, but it was also used for all the dance competitions when it was about 98 degrees out.
Well, that's why there's plenty
We
of
had some air
breathing
conditioning
room.
going, yes.
Yeah, we were talking about his sister and daughter and others, how we were going to try and get him into it somehow.
Yeah.
We gave up on that, but it sounded like a good time.
Yeah, that was the first medal I won right over there in 1959 in Boston. And that was what we had to wear. These are the traditional Irish colors of Ireland for the competitions and the uniforms that we wore.
Now, in the competitions, I mean, how did that go? How was it set up, and what went on? What did you have to dance? Who were the masters? Tell us about the setup.
Well, that was part of the progression of the step dance for me. My mom wanted to take us to a more structured setting where we'd be a little more focused and learn some more steps that were a little more intricate and also eligible for competitions. So we started learning from two wonderful people that used to come to Providence every Sunday afternoon, Mary Sullivan and Steve Carney. And with those steps, I entered many competitions. And some of the steps my mom taught me were from the dance masters that came from Ireland. And these guys would travel to the villages and stay 6 to 8 weeks at a time in the villages and teach the people of the village to dance. So these guys were like very well-respected guys. They walked with a big staff, very colorful clothing, put up in the nicest homes. And there was a lot of times, if there was another dance master that encroached on this territory, there'd be a challenge, a dance-off. They would take the front doors off the cottages, put them right in the village square, and oftentimes last man standing would be the victorious one, which would give him the right to teach in the other dance master's territory. So it was also common in those days, too, that if another village was envious of the step dancer style, the master's style, they would go over and kidnap that guy and take him to their village.
Wow.
So
Dance wars.
that doesn't go on anymore, but sometimes in Providence, Rhode Island, that still happens.
Oh, yeah. Captured dance masters. Well, we've got you here under no duress. Would you give us a hornpipe from the
Love
old
to.
school of
Very old
competition?
traditional hornpipe.
Kevin Doyle. You know, even though he is a great competitive dancer, and I saw him do a wonderful competition dance last night at the embassy, competition in this world does not involve dancing as well as doing narrations at the same time. So let me take this moment to introduce the band back here and catch his breath. Donna Long on piano. I know you know her. Josh Kane on flute. Junior Stevens, accordion. And somehow, Seamus Connolly made it back. He was a 2013 National Heritage Fellow. As long as there'll be Irish dance and culture here, I think Seamus is going to find a way to get here. It's very appropriate. And I'll just mention that we both grew up seeing Jimmy Cagney in a film called I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, which came out some years after World War I and was meant to lift people's spirits into the 30s and the idea of being all-American. But he came out of the Irish-American world in the Coen movie. And, well, tell him, you saw the film. What did it do for you?
I saw that film when I was 10 years old, and as soon as I seen Jimmy Cagney doing those steps, the military tap, and those patriotic songs, I ran running out to the kitchen and said, Mom, I'm not going to quit step dancing, but I'd really like to look at some tap dance as well. My mom always made sure that I followed my passion, so she found a nice place for me to go and learn some steps, and actually I ended up at Teresa Landry's studio in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, who's with us tonight. She's 92 years old, still teaches 2 days a week, and she's right over here in the audience tonight. She came to Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
There she is, right here. So, like many of the Irish step dancers, when they came to this country, they really didn't want to see much of the step dancers back in the early 60s, and unless it was St. Patrick's Day. Everybody would have their corned beef and cabbage, and my sister Maureen and I would go out and do 5, 6 places of an evening, and they'd say, thank you very much, we'll see you next year. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
So I went into a lot of tap dance, and as well as some competing on different shows like the Ted Mack Show in New York City, which was like the pre-show to America's Got Talent, where the public votes on their winners, you know? So it was very, very much a big part of my repertoire, the tap.
This is kind of a Ted Mack thing tonight, don't you think, a little bit?
Yeah, it is. Well, this is a wonderful
we're not
audience.
quite that
I think
corny.
they're all winners here tonight, though.
We think we're cooler than that, I think, though. I mean, did you think Ted Mack was really happening?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Absolutely. He was a tough man to get to and a tough place to get on that show.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was well respected.
Well, you got to make sure you put the right stuff on the radio, man. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, tonight I'm playing valet here to help him out, putting the right stuff. This program will air on American Roots over Thanksgiving, but right now I'm going to hand you your boater and give us a little bit of that Yankee Doodle Dandy
This
world.
is a routine that Teresa taught me. This is actually a straw hat, belonged to her father. And I'm going to do the George M. Cohan routine.
All right, Kevin Doyle, one more time. Yeah, take your hat. All right. Yeah.
That's for you, Teresa.
Yeah. Yeah, a little retro showbiz here. It's good. Now, I know, Kevin, over the years you've done an awful lot of teaching, but you've got a very special student we're going to bring out here to join with your sister Maureen to close out with some reels.
Yes, I get a great joy out of teaching a lot of children in school programs, and a lot of that's been made available to me through the Rhode Island Council on the Arts and Dr. Winnie Lambert that got me here tonight. So, round of applause, please, yes. But there's a special student that I have. She's actually my daughter, and Shannon, and she's going to be joined by my sister Maureen. We're going to end off with a beautiful set of reels.
Right.
It goes like this.
Let's bring out the family here, folks. Sister Maureen and daughter Shannon. All right. How about that Doyle family? All right. Kevin Doyle.